What's up, everybody? Jeff here. I was telling somebody about an experiment that I was getting ready to do because I've been doing some studying on this, and they wanted me to make a little video. So here it is for you. Basically what I'm going to do is dry age a fat chunk of rib roast, as you can see here. Fat cap still on it. Nice little piece, ready to go. So it's all still twined together and everything. I got it at the meat market for $50 or something like that. So what I'm gonna do is dry age this sucker, but in a way that most people would probably frown upon. I don't know if you would call this like wet dry aging or dry wet aging or whatever, but basically I'm gonna dry age it using a bourbon, specifically a rye, Sazerac Rye bourbon. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to wrap the sucker up in the cheesecloth, and I'm going to put it on this little rack that I made and keep it in the fridge. It's got to be under 40 degrees for probably about 45 days or so. I'm going to try it 45 days. And you know, the enzymes start breaking down after about 7 to 10 days, and it shrinks a little bit, but because I've covered it in the bourbon, it shouldn't shrink as much as normal dry aged meat, and keep a little bit of the moisture in there. And then of course it's going to take on the flavor of the bourbon, so we're going to get the hints of the rye, little vanilla, some wood flavor probably. I was hoping for at least. So you'll have to watch, 45 days or so. You'll have to watch for another video or pictures or whatever, see how it goes. But anyway, I'm going to go ahead and do that. So first thing, basically I've got a couple of these tinfoil things. These are going to be super useful. And then I have a rack that I made just now. I had to go cut up a rack because I didn't have a small one, but took another one of these tinfoil things, made a little rack, and I put some salt down in it, just not because the meat's going to be in there, but I want the salt to absorb some of the moisture because I'm going to keep it in my fridge. Generally I would want maybe like a mini fridge or something. I'd keep it in there so the smell doesn't get too bad. I don't think the smell is going to be that bad with this because of the way I'm doing it, but ideally you would want to keep it below 40 degrees and have some movement, some air movement on it. So that's why I put this rack. I don't want it sitting directly on something because I don't want the moisture soaking in on the bottom. So I want to sit it on this rack. But the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to wrap this sucker in the cheesecloth here, so bear with me. And what I want to do is wrap it pretty good and tight, get a couple layers around it, something so that the bourbon soaks in. And I don't want to pour too much on there, but we'll see that in a second. So big old fat chunk of meat. So I'm pretty much just gonna mummy wrap it, I guess you could call it that. Try not to get any crazy chunks. If you ever had a traumatic injury, that's basically what it looks like as they bandage you up, as it soaks the blood in. It's pretty disgusting. So anyway, you can get all of the stuff you need to do this. Got all my stuff at Safeway, cheesecloth and everything, so pretty much everything you need is at the regular old store. So that's probably enough. I don't wrap it too tight. We're gonna cut this off now. And it's always good to have some string or some twine to wrap it back up with. I didn't, unfortunately, so I, being Captain Improvisation, I found some other twine type stuff that I had. So I'm just gonna wrap it with that, and it'll do. I'm gonna wrap it around this way. It's basically just to keep it tight on there. String would be ideal, but like I said, we're improvising today. that I wasn't a Boy Scout because I don't know how to tie a knot to save my life, but this will have to do. Alright, so you can see big chunk of meat wrapped up like a mummy now. See, I didn't wrap it too tight or I haven't put too much stuff on it, so you can see some of the blood soaking through. You want it kind of soaking through a little bit like that. So now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put this sucker in this tinfoil thing, one of the extra ones that I have, and I'm gonna drizzle the bourbon on that, and then when that is done, I'm gonna put it on the rack. I didn't want to do that obviously because I have the salt in the bottom, so if I pour the bourbon on the salt, that defeats the purpose. But like I said, you don't want to go too nuts. I put the little pour thing on here so I can kind of control it so I'm not dumping a half bottle of bourbon on here, but I want just enough to soak the rag. I don't want to waste much of this, obviously. My friends are probably gonna freak out when they see this, my whiskey friends. Try and get this strap in there a little better. So there's a restaurant that's in New York that does this. They actually dry age their meats to the extreme, I guess you would say. 160 day dry age. Not a big fan of that. That gets too much of that cheesy, like nasty, moldy cheese flavor. So we're gonna go for 45 days. Get it nice and soaked. Can't really see what I'm doing on the camera, I apologize, but I'll hold it up in a second. Okay, so didn't waste too much, but basically the thing is now good and soaked. Hear it dripping out. So, like I said, I don't know if you would call this wet dry aging or wet aging. It's not truly wet aging because wet aging is when you put it like in a bag and it keeps all the moisture. So dry aging with bourbon is what we're doing. I'm gonna let this kind of squeeze some of the bourbon out of it. I probably used a little too much, but make a good college bet to bet a friend to drink that after it has all the blood and stuff in it. It's disgusting. Sorry. Okay, so pat it down a little bit. So now I have a nice tight package of bourbon covered beef. We'll see how this goes. Put it on my little rack. Bam. We'll start it like that. What I want to do is probably do it every, I don't know, once a week or something like that for the 45 days, is I want to start getting in there and flipping that over. I'm going to rotate it around so that it's not sitting, just so that the weight of the meat doesn't compress on itself, so that as I rotate it, the proteins and the enzymes that are breaking the meat down don't kind of settle to the bottom, I guess you would say. So yeah, that's it. I do have, of course, a little bourbon, because what would life be without a good bourbon as you're doing this kind of stuff? So anyway, that's it, guys. I'm gonna go ahead and let this thing sit for 45 days and see what happens. I'll report back to you. Take care.